The college football playoffs are just 5.5 weeks away. Wait, wasn't it just week 4 and conference play had just begun? The NFL leaves us with more questions about seeding and title contenders after another pitcher's duel in Monday Night Football, and still more to come in SEC games this week as the at-large bids heat up. Welcome back to Broadway. One of us comes from a city that never sleeps, and the other from a city that never stops line dancing. I promise, I don't sleep, but I know Owen doesn't sleep as well, as he works tirelessly at manufacturing good parlays for our listeners to take advantage of. It's episode 16 of Broadway, and the headlines are flying. The second round of the college football playoff rankings come out today. The Giants hit reset up in New Jersey. North Carolina loses a key backcourt member, and college football is heating up with some marquee SEC games. We've got MLB controversy, a couple of MLB surprises, plenty to roll through. Oh, and let's roll through some of these fast and furious headlines, so to speak. College football playoff rankings. It feels like round 1 was just out. Now it's round 2. Texas Tech pulls off a monumental win for its trajectory this season and to be the front runner of the Big 12, but not by its standards. It's off to its best start since 2008. I'd expect Texas Tech to be a team with a first-round bye if it keeps winning into next week.
100%. Yeah, I don't know how much they move up considering they came in at number 7 or number 8 going into this BYU matchup last week, but I imagine they maybe possibly shoot up to maybe number 6, but I don't see the top 3 necessarily changing when you got Ohio State, Indiana, Texas A&M all winning, and then, of course, Georgia, Alabama with wins as well. So it'll be interesting to see if there's changes in the top 10. I don't expect them to be a lot, but obviously with Louisville and Virginia going down and the ACC potentially trying to play itself out with the amount of upsets that conference has had, the Big 12, as you mentioned, is kind of settled down. But it'll be interesting to see some shakeups in the top 25 and in the top 15 for that matter, with some losses and coming from that ACC conference.
Hey, I have a quick question for you, just out of the blue here. It's November 11th. It is nearly week 12 of college football. Do you want to win the ACC? Do you any interest in that, casually speaking?
I don't know. Maybe the ACC programs that are in control are side betting to see if Miami can sneak back into the picture. We'll have to see. But no, I mean, yeah, you're certainly right. Like Louisville loses to Cal at home, Virginia. Personally, I feel like they've played well at times this season, but I don't know if they're quite ready to make a big leap like this. I know Tony Elliott is a great coach, but they just haven't played their best as of late. But I really like Pitt, and I know Pat Narduzzi has made his comments clear on this upcoming matchup with Notre Dame. But if I got my money on one team, I definitely think Pitt is my favorite to have a spot in that ACC championship for sure.
I'm drinking Celsius right now. We have, by the way, no professional or sponsorship related affiliation with Celsius. You are drinking the Panthers Kool-Aid. That was your owning lime preseason futures pick out of the ACC. Panthers have won every game since dropping their ACC opener against Louisville. And now Louisville, I mean, speaking of which, who knows what trajectory looks like there, how the strength of record can improve if this team still wants to have an at-large as the second ACC in the first round of games. I mean, Isaac Brown hasn't been playing. I mean, I'd figure Miller Moss, the experience he has playing in the Big Ten last year in at USC, can be beneficial toward generating points in low-scoring games for the Cardinals down the stretch of this regular season. But Pittsburgh, as you had mentioned, Owen, Pat Narduzzi told reporters yesterday how he doesn't see this game as vital at all to determining their fate in winning the ACC, if not for pushing for an at-large bid. Is that what you want to hear if you're a recruit in central Pennsylvania, eastern Ohio, even down in central Florida, South Florida? They recruit out of there too.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm buying that this game doesn't necessarily matter. I mean, if Pitt knocks off Notre Dame, not only does that boost their resume, they only have, correct me if I'm wrong, I think they have 2 losses on the year, 1 in ACC play. So, I mean, from that standpoint, yeah, he's right. Not an ACC game, so that doesn't affect their record. If they win their final 2 games after this one, they have a spot in the ACC championship. But, if you knock off Notre Dame, that's a resume booster and a potential better seed. Now, and that could potentially boost Pitt as an ACC champion if they're able to win this game, win their final 2, and win that championship game. They could potentially be a top 7 seed, hosting a first round game instead of potentially playing on the road, even as a conference championship. Well, actually, if they win the conference, I'm not sure if they change that up at all. But you got the Big Ten and the SEC that are the better conferences that'll probably have the buys. But, I feel like every game is important for Pitt. I'm not 100% sold on Pitt necessarily. Not saying that this game doesn't matter with their head coach Pat Narduzzi, because I mean theoretically it doesn't. But I'd still like to see Pitt go out there and play hard, especially when they're retiring Aaron Donald's number.
Exactly. I also think that if you're Pittsburgh right now, you consider what's going on in the ACC. You think about what you want to do as a program. You want every win to count. And yes, you're right. Pittsburgh's only lost 2 games this year. The first game to West Virginia in the backyard brawl, and then the second game to Louisville in that ACC opener, as it allowed all those unanswered points in the fourth quarter. Let's also talk a little bit about what's going on in college basketball. North Carolina takes down Kansas, the 25th ranked Tar Heels against the 19th ranked Jayhawks. Actually, Owen, I don't know if you knew this. It was the first ever meeting between Kansas and North Carolina at the Smith Center. There had been 2 other games played in the state of North Carolina between the programs. So I kind of already found that interesting going to this game. I mean,
Mhm.
Roy Williams at Kansas, Roy Williams at North Carolina, those programs had just never played against one another at the Smith Center. That was pretty fascinating. But Seth Trimble, the senior guard for the Tar Heels, is now out for a certain period of time, according to CBS Sports, with a broken arm. He had a great game against Kansas, as you'd expect from a former blue chip recruit out of Menominee Falls, Wisconsin. And for Hubert Davis to lose this individual, as he said to the media, I mean, he's a great player as he relates to being a member of this backcourt in the starting lineup, but he's also just a great individual off the court. He has the work ethic needed to help his team push for a national title run. And this is going to bring North Carolina back a little bit if it can't make up, obviously.
Yeah, it's a huge loss. I mean, he was definitely a top performer in that Kansas game. A great win to start the season, and this is unfortunate news if you're North Carolina to lose a senior guard like this, who's not only a leader for this team, but potentially one of your best players and going to be one of your top scorers. So now North Carolina will have to figure it out. I still think they're deep and positioned well to have a successful season, especially if Trimble can come back. We don't know when, but if he's able to come back for potential ACC tournament down the stretch or halfway through the season, that's a big lift there for sure. But Henry Vasar, a transfer from Arizona, spending 2 seasons there, he's going to have to now do more than he even did before in that Kansas game as far as shooting 3-pointers and rebounding. He's going to have to really step up and become an all around force for this team as we get further into the season and obviously eventually into conference play here within the next couple of weeks. But yeah, a big loss for North Carolina. I still think they'll finish uh, top 5 in the ACC if he's not able to come back or when he does. But my biggest thing is if they can get Seth Trimble back, because a broken arm takes what 6 to 8 weeks, most cases
If
potentially
that, he probably starts
yeah.
shooting and even going through walkthroughs maybe by week 5.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
you're hoping all is well, speedy recovery, and that he's able to come back and potentially be a good force on the court for this Tar Heels team. That I think many people think that they will have a rebound year under Hubert Davis this season.
Could very well be a rebounding year. Speaking of rebounding, the New York Giants, the football Giants, have once again elected to move on from their current coaching leadership. They fire Brian Dable 24 hours prior to this recording. It is Tuesday, 12:43 Eastern. All of a sudden, the Giants, they have Jackson Dart in his fourth concussion protocol. Brian Dable actually drew a little bit of ire from entering the concussion protocol tent multiple times in the first half of the regular season. Now he's out of a job all of a sudden. The Giants have been rumored to go after a couple of names already. Halfley, the defensive coordinator for Pittsburgh, or for Green Bay, excuse me, has been one that's gone out there. But as well as the Green Bay Packers defense performed against the Eagles on Monday Night Football, it seems less likely than the Giants targeting somebody like Brian Flores. But, oh, and I know this is probably one of the most groundbreaking decisions of the NFL regular season so far. It's a step behind what's going on in SEC football right now with all the coaching changes. But what do you make of this timing for the decision and how the Giants can actually try and get this right?
Yeah, it just seemed like they, it was surprising. 2 years ago, Brian Daboll's coach of the year, and the Giants beat the Vikings in a wild card playoff game. Daniel Jones, obviously, that last season with the Giants going into next season, he didn't perform right. So they just could never recover after that tremendous season there with Dable. And I just think I don't want to say he lost the locker room, but we weren't seeing turnaround, right? Like things weren't getting better after that successful wild card appearance and playoff victory under Dable. And a little bit of this has to do too, like it's no fault to Jackson Darts, but if you know that Jackson Dart's got to play, your team's obviously not very good, right? Like you're going to your rookie quarterback that you drafted, which obviously you hope in the future he develops, he gets better, which we've already seen flashes of. But I just think this, and this a little bit is my opinion too. I know he only carried the ball 6 times, but he's already had a couple concussions. I'd be weary of that because we've seen players have multiple concussions in a season and have to sit out and miss some games just to not pick up that third concussion in a season. Jackson Dart's a rookie. I don't know if you want your franchise quarterback running around and taking all the hits he's taking. Now, Dart does have to fix some of that himself. He needs to work on sliding. I know he prides himself as a character high character individual and likes to take hits, likes to be a team player, but you're not going to last very long in the NFL if you don't take care of yourself. So we need to see him get better at that. And I don't want to say, that the Giants should also look for a new GM. I know Joe Shane's criticized because of the Saquon Barkley thing, but I think he's a good general manager. He's brought in some good individuals. You got Brian Burns, Abdul Carter on that defense, as well as
He
Kayvon
found
Thibodeau.
Paulson at Debo. I mean, that was a little bit of diamond in the rough. I know he was inactive this past week, but he's been good, and particularly against the Eagles on Thursday Night Football a month ago.
Yeah, so they have talent, right? So I don't necessarily think it's the general manager. I think he's drafted well. He's brought in talent. I think it's just finding the right voice for this football team that is kind of young, right? So if they can find the right leader and right voice in that locker room, I think the Giants will be set up for success, especially with Dart, who I like a lot. And we're also sticking with New York. We're also looking at some injuries around the league. Garrett Wilson for the Jets, the other team in New York, he's going to be out. And then unfortunately,
That's a team in
more,
New York right now.
I guess, yeah.
Which team is in New York anyway?
Yeah, there's a lot of losing going on actually in New York right now. But yeah, it's Garrett Wilson getting
Fields is doing enough to keep his job too. I mean, if there's anything that's keeping this team by a thread, it's the former Ohio State product that actually looked good.
100%. Yeah, they've won 2 in a row now, and unfortunate news for Monday night as well as Elton Jenkins dislocated or broke his ankle, so we don't know how long he'll be out for the Packers. But just that's some injury news around the NFL. Starts in New York with Garrett Wilson getting an MRI on that knee injury that forced him out of last Sunday's contest, and then unfortunately last night Elton Jenkins get rolls up on, and looks like the Packers are going to have to overcome more with the slow offense losing their starting center. So a lot going on.
Isn't this kind of degrading to see if you're an NFL fan who believes in it actually being more than just what people have given this league as a moniker for a no fun league? I mean, you want to expect a lot of ones to be out there, and this is right on the heels of course, Jaden Daniels out with that dislocated elbow. Then you also face, if you're the 49ers, the Warner injury. And it just seems to keep piling up. And at the same time, seeing some great performances from Baker Mayfield, albeit I don't think he was entirely at his best this past week down in Tampa Bay. And now all of a sudden, I mean, as wide open as the league it's been, it is kind of been hampered a little bit, at least the contention for a lot of teams that expect to win divisions. Maybe the Seattle Seahawks are um, the only exception to this, but a lot of injuries all of a sudden on the radar here.
Yeah, the injuries are piling up, and, we know that's part of the game. We know injuries happen. It's all about who can stay healthy and who's playing their best football down the stretch, right? Like a little after Thanksgiving as we get closer into the playoffs here. And obviously, when we get a little later into the show, we'll touch on the playoff picture and some reactions from Monday night's game, and of course that big 7-2 matchup with the NFC West and the Seahawks and Rams. But yeah, injuries are a part of the game, and I like to think every year in the NFL is a new year for these teams. Like what happened last year doesn't really matter. And you touched on the Commanders and Jaden Daniels. In the case of them, they won a lot of close games last year. This year, things haven't quite fallen their way, and a little bit of a rocky start when you look at their training camp with McLaurin wanting a new contract and as far as that goes. But I mean, it's not like Washington's not talented. I would argue more of yes, they're a good football team, but is this defense a little too old? Have they,
Yeah.
do they really have as good as a defense as we think? And I do think Dan Quinn's a good coach. He's going to take over, the defensive duties now as we finish this season. But yeah, to your point, there's been a lot of injuries, and it doesn't seem like last year there was this many injuries, but for the 49ers, it just seems like every year they lose a couple big players, and Brock Purdy's been only to play one game healthy, suffering that turf toe, tried to play, but it's gonna be interesting down the stretch. When we touch on this playoff picture, there's some teams in the mix that if they can potentially get a couple guys back or and figure out playing to play good football, who knows what this playoff picture will look like in both leagues.
Well, especially if the Commanders realize that the changes are more than just schematic, this will signal that they have a lot of work to do in the offseason, especially coming off a loss to the same team they upset in the divisional round last year. The Lions looked very good, but not everybody's sold right now on their offensive woes being resolved, as Dan Quinn, or rather, as their play calling duties have changed into the hands of Dan Campbell. Taking a look at a couple of other games in college football for this week. Owen, you mentioned Notre Dame versus Pittsburgh. Notre Dame hasn't lost since week 2. These are two teams that have developed a lot of rhythm on the defensive side of the ball. Chris Ash has seemingly settled into his role as the Fighting Irish defensive coordinator after Al Golden left for the job in the NFL last offseason. They're coming off a big win against Navy, wire to wire. They didn't exactly get a free pass, not facing the starting quarterback, Blake Horvath. At the same time, Pittsburgh is a team that's going to bring it. And Eli Holstein wasn't the answer right away at quarterback, but Desmond Reed's been having a great season in the backfield.
Yeah, that game is gonna be fun to watch. Obviously, Navy, not the best competition. I don't want to say, but Notre Dame, handled business. They did what they were supposed to do. When I look at this game, can CJ Carr continue to play the way he's been playing? Right, he's been fantastic, and Jeremiah Love is showcasing potential Heisman candidacy, and I definitely think he should be in the top, at least the top 5, but I'd put him in the top 3. I think he's had a phenomenal season, just the way he's been able to really his productivity for Notre Dame all year. Even in those first 2 games where they lost, he still put together really good performances. But that's going to be the challenge for Pitt. Can they stop Jeremiah Love? Can they make CJ Carr have to beat him with his arm? And I think CJ Carr can. But if you're Notre Dame, obviously you want to be able to control the line of scrimmage with Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price, that running game. So that's going to be that's going to be the big challenge in this one.
Oklahoma, Alabama, Sooners arguably kept Kalen DeBoer out of the college football playoff conversation in his first year in Tuscaloosa last season. Oklahoma, meanwhile, still trying to kind of vindicate itself from its earlier season losses that made some people in Norman wonder if Brent Venables would be the long-term leader for this team to be a consistent college football playoff contender as it was under Lincoln Riley. What do you make of this matchup?
Yeah, you touched on it, right? OU defeated Alabama at home last year. Jalen Milroe did not have a great game in the rain in Norman in Oklahoma. So I think Alabama's going to be ready to play at home, and I think that they win this game. I think Ty Simpson has just continued to put on performance after performance. I know it wasn't their most efficient outing against LSU, but LSU played hard. They did their best. Their offense let them down last week. Nussmeier got benched, obviously, but if this Alabama defense too can continue to stack good performances the way they played last week, I think Alabama will be able to win this game. And it might be another low scoring game like we saw last week against LSU, a 20-9 type of outing. But again, if Ty Simpson's just able to stay up and stay clean in that pocket, scramble at times, make plays with his legs, and get the ball to his playmakers on the outsides and Jeremy Bernard, Ryan Williams, and Horton. I like Alabama. Now the key for me too is, can Alabama run the ball? I know they don't run it a lot, and they're not the traditional program of Alabama wants to run the ball. They want to be successful. They're like 103rd in a couple categories in effectiveness as far as running the football. They haven't had a great run game all season, but I do feel in this game that the to try to establish the run with Jam Miller is going to be super important. If they can just get 4 yards at times, 3 yards even, to just kind of stay ahead of the chains and not be forced to kind of throw the ball all the time in this one, I think that'll help Alabama. But I think Alabama gets the win at home. I think they're out for revenge after last year's loss, which knocked them out of the CFP, and the first time Alabama suffered 3 losses since Nick Saban's first year in the SEC since in 2007.
And how about the idea that having Ladzier Brooks back, he only missed one game, but what that does to force Simpson to still be more balanced, because as much as you don't want to miss out on taking advantage of a light box that Oklahoma may bring, they know they may want to play cover three, they may want to play quarters coverage and trying to contain Horton, the Miami transfer, Brooks, the standout freshman wideout, as you mentioned, Jeremy Bernard, the Michigan State transfer. So if anything, Simpson may have to do it a lot himself if he doesn't want to over rely on the run and try and get this team into good third and short situations, extend drives.
100%, yeah. And again, if like you're touching on it, they just need to be able to be a little bit effective, right? If they can get into third and short, the whole playbook's open for them. They've struggled with that at times, and I think we get it. Ryan Grubb, he loves to throw the football, but I'm begging you, like, you have to at least try to establish some sort of run game. I get it. You don't like to run the football, but you're gonna have to at least try to keep Oklahoma off balance a little bit to extend drives. Because this Oklahoma defense, if they're able to get after the passer, it can be a long day for Ty Simpson, even though they're at home at Nick Saban Field at Bryant-Denny Stadium.
If the Crimson Tide win, I don't think anyone would be all that surprised to hear 8-0 love in Oklahoma coming out of the Alabama locker room, especially given what happened last season. Kalen DeBoer has a calling card in November. He has very few losses when it comes to winning late in seasons as he tries to overcome last year's shortcoming in Norman. Texas and Georgia, the 11th ranked Longhorns, the 5th ranked Bulldogs, driven by their redshirt freshman running back Chauncey Bowens, a South Florida product, chose the Bulldogs. He's having a great season next to Frazier in the backfield. Colby Young, the wide receiver for Georgia, he's out with an ankle injury right now, but at the same time, seems like Gunnar Stockton just has his offense where it needs to be, and at the same time, Georgia's run defense is threatened a lot.
100%. And I don't want to say Mississippi State kind of let down a little bit after performing so well the previous week and getting their first SEC win in a long time. I think you needed to have one of those clean performances. But this Texas defense, albeit Georgia's at home and Texas is going on the road, we know this Texas defense is one of the best in the country. I mean, they held Ohio State to 14 points early in the season, and we get it. That was week one. You're not a complete football team the first week you go out there. You get better as the season goes on. But this Texas defense has continued to stack great performance after great performance. Anthony Hill, linebacker. So I'm going to be interested to see how Georgia can run the football, and if they're able to run the football and pick up big games in the run game, then it'll make it easier for Gunnar Stockton to throw to his playmakers, and I think that'll be the challenge for on both sides really too, because we saw against Vandy for Texas too. That was the first time that Arch Manning was really clean in the pocket, able to distribute the ball, shoot 75-yard touchdown first play of the game against Vandy. Just everything was rolling for Arch Manning. So on that side for Texas, can the offense duplicate the performance they had a couple weeks ago against Vandy? And that Georgia defense, the secondary's been banged up, but if they're able to play well at home and potentially get back to doing what Arch Manning has been doing a lot this year, which is getting sacked. Time of the weekend, I think, on the college slate.
Time to get into another edition of Walking the Dogs while we still have a couple of minutes before bringing you some of our NFL predictions for this weekend, as well as another round of Broadway books. Oh, and I know that last week I had the Red Raiders defense as a whole, led by Jacob Rodriguez, the linebacker who's been exceptional for them this season. But I'm going to go with their quarterback as one of my dogs to leash up this week, Baron Morton. He was outstanding again this week against seventh-ranked BYU. 17 of 32. He had a touchdown, didn't get picked, but albeit 4 sacks he still looked relatively composed in just getting this team the scoring that it needed. And meanwhile, I mean, this Red Raiders defense isn't off the hook either from recognition. It only allowed 7 points this week to a BYU team that can put together some explosive plays.
100%. Yeah. Barrett Morton,
Looks like we lost Owen for a moment. Just bringing you
arguably.
Looks like we had just lost you for some internet instability for a moment. My other pick, Owen, I wanted to bring you this week, Brandon Finney. He forced 2 fumbles for Oregon. Freshman standout in the secondary for the Ducks. And this is a team, again, that executed when it had to. You felt like if the offense could get you to 20 points, again, apologies for cutting you off there, Owen, but if you felt like that Oregon could get to 20 points on the road against another ranked Big Ten team in Iowa that doesn't lose all that often at home, albeit not toward the top of the Big Ten standings. This is the freshman corner that had to step up. He had no sacks. They don't really run a lot of corner blitzes in Dan Lanning's defense all the time, but he had 4 tackles this week. He looked great against Indiana, albeit it was a loss on the road in Happy Valley. So, if anything, my second dog to leash up besides Morton is the freshman Brandon Finney, the corner for Oregon.
Performances you touched on, fantastic, right? Oregon able to escape away with the victory there. Yeah, sorry, lost it a little bit. You keep freezing up on me. But as far as my dogs of the week, I'm going with Jake Retzlaff on Friday night, the Tulane quarterback, coming off his worst performance of the season the previous week. 332 yards passing, 3 passing touchdowns, and a rushing touchdown in a big win over Memphis on the road to put Tulane back in the Group of 5 playoff conversation and finish out their American Conference schedules as we get down the grind of the college season here. And then I'm going with Connecticut quarterback Joe. I'm going to try to get his name right. He's Italian. He's Italiano. Fagnano.
No, Finano.
Yes, yes. See, I knew I was going to do it. I couldn't do
The
it.
G is silent, and that comes from a dual U.S. Italian citizen.
I love it. And the crappy thing is I just watched the Pat McAfee show. They're like, I'm not gonna say his name. Toad Diggs, who does the betting side of things on for Hammer Down on there. So I apologies to Mr. Joe, the quarterback for Connecticut, but could he potentially be in the Heisman conversation? I mean, 25 touchdowns, 0 interceptions on the season. I mean, 3 touchdowns last week against Duke in a big win and kind of an upset win when you really look at it. Duke's now 5-4, but nobody's really talking about this quarterback for Connecticut, again, the 25-0 touchdown to interception rate just continued to play great. Connecticut's 7-3 on the year. So I went with him in their 37-34 win. And apologies for the mispronunciation of the name. I am not Italian.
Is this the biggest upset loss for Duke in the Manny Diaz era now that he's a couple seasons in?
I'd probably say so. I mean, if you're Duke, you're playing great in the ACC conference. You kind of want to, be able to continue building wins here. But now they're sitting at 5-4, still with I believe one loss in ACC play. So they could be a team that's potentially 8-4, 9-4, and in the Big 12 team dance, as they would say.
Darian Mensah, one of the more highly rated or at least highly paid quarterbacks in the ACC coming into the season. Tulane, I don't think he outdueled Jake Retzlaff, as you just mentioned him as one of your dogs to leash up next to Fanano. And honestly, what does the future look like in Duke land right now? I mean, it's a basketball school. The team devotes a lot of NIL toward that sport. Not to say it doesn't for football, but he's a defensive specialist, and he's still seemingly yet to prove that he can do it for all three phases. It didn't happen for him at Miami just a few years back, and then of course he goes and wins a Rose Bowl with Penn State. But again, it still raises questions about what he can do at Duke. Time to get into some NFL blitz as well. Owen, great picks on your leash dogs for this week. I respect them. I think both offensive performances were great. Thinking about how the division pictures look now compared to week one, again, maybe the exception is the NFC West, especially with how the Cardinals lost handily this week. I mean, Aden Durde, the defensive coordinator for the Seattle Seahawks, has this defense humming right now. It's one of the league's leaders in tackles for loss. Leonard Williams has been the ultimate force for them in that front seven.
Yeah, you touched on the Lions losing to Minnesota a couple weeks ago. We look at this playoff picture right now in the AFC. The Colts, Broncos, Pats, and Steelers are all division leaders, and we got the Chargers, Bills, and Jaguars in the wild card. And in the hunt is Kansas City, Houston, Baltimore, and I'd throw Cincinnati in there as well with Joe Burrow coming back. And again, in the NFC, we're touching on that 7-2 Seahawks and the 7-2 Rams. That showdown this weekend, and right now the division leaders are Philly with their win on Monday night. Last night jumps to the 1 spot. Then you got the Seahawks at number 2, Lions in control of the NFC North at number 3, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the 4th division leader. In the wild card, we got the Rams, Bears, and with this in that 7th spot, the Packers. As of right now, we'll see if things change. But in the hunt, we got teams like the 49ers, Panthers, Vikings, and again, I'll throw the Cowboys in there despite their record not looking appeasing right now. But, as far as takeaways from that Monday night game, as transitioning here, I get it. I'm wearing the G on my head, and I have
It's a Georgia G, right? I can't see. I can't see
no,
green.
no, it's not Georgia G. No, it's a Matt LaFleur needs to get canned G. Is what
About
made him
Hafley.
have something, or just I don't know, because I don't put this on Jordan Love. I really don't. Like, I didn't see it at first, but then I woke up this morning and I could see the Eagles defense pointing this way on the 4th and 1 run. Just no creativity right now in this offense. Again, I take no issue with Jordan Love's play. It comes down to the coach, and for Matt LaFleur, who's supposed to have great play calling, great scheme, the play calling, the game flow is just not there. And again, I have confidence that the Packers offense will be able to figure it out. I don't have an issue with Jordan Love, but again, just to lose that game 10-7, not score until the 4th quarter. The Packers defense is playing great. Like, to lose 3 games this season and to essentially be four plays away on their season as a whole, from being 9-0 is just frustrating as a fan. But I'm really looking forward to the NFC West showdown. I don't want to spend too much time whining and complaining about Matt LaFleur. I do it enough on a daily basis. So, I can't wait for that 7-2 Seahawks and 7-2 Rams showdown next weekend.
It'll be an exciting one to see. Do we get maybe a rematch of this in the NFC Championship game if the Lions don't pull through? Not to say that the Lions are the clear-cut favorites, but then May the division be with you. Drake May driving a lot of success right now in New England with Josh McDaniel calling the plays once again. Oh, and we only have a few minutes left, but we would be remiss if we didn't get back to your picks for this week with Broadway books. What are you thinking as it relates to putting together one of the meanest Joe Green parlays of the season, either in college or in NFL?
Yeah, it's a couple of tough losses. Florida did not come through. I definitely thought they'd keep it close last week, so that definitely hurt me. Looking at the slate, haven't put together too much yet, but I definitely will be looking at Texas, Georgia more, and Alabama, Oklahoma, and then some other games on the schedule. Um, as far as like Indiana being a big favorite at home against Wisconsin, I think they'll be motivated and ready to play. They could potentially cover 30 points, but there's obviously some good action both in the NFL and the college slate, and we even have college basketball now. So, well, we'll put some plays out there. Don't have anything right now. I can tell you though that the Pitt over 6.5 wins future one. We need Tennessee to win out the regular season to hit over 8.5. We will win that one, and thanks to Wisconsin's upset win over Washington, if Wisconsin somehow can win their final 3 games and get to 6-6, I will hit the over 5.5 win total on the Wisconsin Badgers, which again, tough task going and playing the Hoosiers, and Kurt Signetti is, and we know how Kurt Signetti is. He's saying we're gonna get everyone's best shot. We're gonna get everyone's best shot, down the stretch here, which is entirely true. They got their business to focus on and win the Big Ten, get to the Big Ten championship game. But we have a minute 20 here, and my final thoughts would be as we shift. We talk some NHL, the final shift on the ice as we have it.
Well,
Ye-
I was gonna add, if Bleacher Report betting is listening to this right now, it might behoove the admin for Bleacher Report betting to actually pick up your picks, because that sounds excellent right now. And even to screenshot your ticket of the parlay for Pittsburgh over season wins total future, Tennessee and Wisconsin as well. It might just help them out. But NHL, yes, we are celebrating Macklin Celebrini. Owen, sorry to have cut you off, because Celebrini, I mean, he's showing why he's the number one pick in the draft. He has 10 goals and 14 assists right now. He's tied for fourth in NHL in 16 games for points. I mean, he's been a true point getter besides everything that's been going on in Anaheim under Joel Quenneville. Looks like we lost Owen again. Some internet instability again, seemingly on his end. But we appreciate you tuning in as always. For Owen, I'm Wyatt. We look forward to bringing you some great Broadway picks on our Twitter and Instagram accounts this weekend before college football kicks off. Thanks again for tuning in, everybody. We'll talk to you on Frontline Football in just a couple of hours.